Okay, perfect. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Sorry about that. I thought we were waiting to go live. Welcome everyone to the panel. I'm super excited to talk to all of you, and we have some really great people from some great companies here ready to chat with y'all. Quick disclaimer before we get started. All of the opinions that will be shared from both me and the speakers are our own opinions and our own commentary and don't reflect the views or opinions of their respective companies or organizations or the opinions of Data Science Connect. So with that little legal disclaimer, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'll just let everyone go ahead and introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're currently doing in data science in your respective industries. So we'll kind of go in order of everyone's little speaking squares. So we'll start in the top left here and skip me and go around.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Apurvaa. I'm currently a senior data scientist at Instacart. And for those of you who are not familiar, Instacart is a grocery platform. So you can order groceries from all your favorite retailers online at Instacart, and they will be delivered to you sometimes within 30 minutes. So I can tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up in India and then went to Singapore for undergrad, where I studied computer engineering. Then I worked as a software engineer for about 3 years in an investment bank in Singapore. And there my role was a software engineer, and the team I was on was called investment research. So investment research analysts are the ones that basically provide stock recommendations for companies. So for example, they might say something like, we think Apple's stock will be X dollars in 1 year based on certain number of factors, and so you should buy Apple stock or sell Apple stock. So the objective of my team was to build an analytics platform to help the investment research analysts make more data-driven decisions. And even so there, my role was more on the infrastructure side, so building data pipelines, data modeling, etc. But at that time, I realized that I was actually more interested in analyzing the data and making recommendations myself. So that's when I decided to come to the US to do a master's program in analytics. I went to Northwestern University, and my program was basically mostly statistics and some data visualization and other data-related courses. After finishing the master's, I joined Amazon in a data science role. And then I worked at Amazon for about 4 years on different teams, ranging from product teams to strategy to operations. And that was a really nice opportunity for me to learn how data science is used in all these different parts of the business. Currently, I'm on the ads team at Instacart. So this is digital advertising. And I think data is really a backbone of digital advertising. So I can give a quick overview of how we currently use data science. And this is not true just for Instacart. This is true for any digital advertising business. So think of Facebook, Google, Amazon. All of these use data in similar ways to power their ads business. So the first main pillar is customer value. So this is about deciding which ads to show which customer. So we want to make sure we are showing relevant ads to customers and not bombarding them with too many ads. So data science plays an important role in deciding how many ads to show, when to show ads, the ad ranking, etc. The second major pillar is measurement or advertiser value. So advertisers want to know how are ads benefiting them, like what benefits are they getting by running these ads and paying money to advertise. So again, data science plays a major role here, where we run experiments, do causal inference, etc., to try and measure the impact of ads. And then there's also auction dynamics. So in most advertising platforms, auctions are run to determine which ad to show. Like that's one factor in showing ads. So again, there's a lot of data science there in terms of allocation, budget allocation, pricing, optimization, etc. And finally, there's fraud detection and quality. So we want to make sure that we're not showing offensive ads. We also want to be able to detect bot activity. So in a lot of cases, especially when for ads which are pay-per-click. Sometimes there are bots that are clicking on those ads. And obviously, we don't want to charge advertisers for those clicks. So again, data science helps in fraud detection, etc., in those areas.
Awesome, thank you. We'll move right along. Mary, you want to go for it?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Stimson. I work at Southwest Airlines. So if you've had a flight delayed anytime recently, I apologize. And I work in the Enterprise Data Science Center at Southwest. We touch anything across the business, and I'm a big data analyst on that team. We have several different kinds of roles in data science. We have managers, we have business consultants that are internal consultants. We have project managers that keep us on track. We have data scientists who a lot of times work with the extra complex models, and a lot of times for us, that means artificial intelligence. And then I'm a big data analyst, so I deal mostly in statistics and forecasting. So like I said, my team touches everything within the company. We do things like predicting what time and where we need to maintain airplanes. So we have regular airplane maintenance every couple of years, and sometimes an airplane needs the Wi-Fi corrected. So we send that back to a hangar to be worked on. But all those things depend on having the right tools in the right places at the right times. And so we work sometimes on forecasting that. We even work on things such as analyzing the efficiency of an aircraft wing. Aircraft wings are made just like bird wings. So there's a lot of physics and statistics involved in that. So we work sometimes on analyzing that, although we don't make new airplanes, but we can analyze what is the most effective and efficient way to manage our wings. I personally mostly work on financial forecasts, which can inform a lot of things across the business. Data science in general is a means of understanding information, predicting what's going to happen with that information, but ultimately it's there to help humans make business decisions. And so our data science models don't just give us answers, they give us reasons for how we make decisions so that a human can decide what to do with that. So in financial forecasting, that can mean a lot of things. Not only are we providing forecasts to our investors about things like how many passengers we think will fly next year, but we're also providing insight on how many people we need to hire in each department next year. As you might have heard, airlines right now are in kind of a rush to hire people because everybody wants to go on vacation, including myself. And so we're trying to figure out at what airports do we need to hire people. There's a lot of factors that go into that. Some of those are economic factors. Some of those are pandemic factors. And so we have to ask a lot of questions and include those as features in our models. Sometimes we use artificial intelligence. We use that on a lot of models. I personally don't, because as we're reporting to investors, sometimes artificial intelligence is called a black box, which means you can't always explain very clearly how you got the answers that you got. And when we're dealing with a public company and investors, we need to be able to explain every decision that we make when it comes to our balance sheet. Outside of work, I also run some operations on research and development on canine language behaviors. So essentially trying to analyze whether or not canines can understand and reciprocate human language. So my background is that I majored in accounting at Texas A&M, and I'm getting a master's in theology. So as you can tell, neither of those is data science, but both of those helped me think like a data scientist, a data analyst, in that they taught me to learn. They taught me to be curious, and those are the first two things that I would suggest as you are interested in data science, is to learn and to be curious. But I'm mostly self-taught when it comes to programming languages and statistics, and also have great coworkers who are always challenging one another to learn more and more.
Awesome, thank you. Keira, can we hear from you a bit about your background and introduction? We cannot hear you yet. Oh no. Still cannot hear you. Looks like you're still muted. I think there should be a little mic button in the top middle of your own video that lets you turn your mic back on. Okay. We will move on to the next question. Keira, just hop in as soon as you get it back on. Oh no. Okay. We'll skip to the next question and just hop back in. We'll have you do an introduction as soon as you get back in. Sorry about that. Hopefully Stephen can help you get the mic situation figured out. All right, so I'm going to ask the panelists to think back to their days as middle and high school students. What was your favorite subject? What did you like to study? And what extracurricular activities did you do? And we'll go in the opposite order. So Mary, you want to start us off?
Sure. I had a hard time deciding what my favorite subject was in school. There were obviously some classes that I didn't prefer. There were some classes that I loved, but when it came to subjects, I loved English, I loved math, I loved things all across the board. But my favorite thing was being in the band. I was in the jazz band, marching band, and the symphony. I played the saxophone. So drop in the chat if you're in the band. And I think, interestingly, music teaches us a lot about data science. There is not only a lot of analytics and statistics that have to do with how music is made, how music theory exists, but also it teaches us a lot of things about how to think like an engineer. Oh, I see a tenor sax player. That's awesome, Derek. It teaches us a lot about how to think like an engineer and how to ask questions about how music should be played. Try to learn new things every day, and some things you have to teach yourself. Sometimes there are things like you feel like you cannot solve on your own, you cannot get better, and you just have to. So when it came to any of those subjects, I felt challenged, but I really enjoyed the challenge of those things, and I enjoyed learning about how things work, whether it's the logic of what makes a good story in English, or what makes a historical cycle, or what makes music work when you put three notes together. All those things are ultimately kind of an engineer problem-solving question to ask. So those are the things I loved in high school. I loved hanging out with my friends. There's also a lot of things that I look back on. I worked really, really hard in high school, and I loved that. But high school is also meant for making friends and having fun, and that's a lot of the benefit to being a well-rounded person, is investing in those things as well.
I love that. All right, Apurvaa, tell us about your favorite subjects and extracurriculars.
Yeah, sure. So in middle school, I think my favorite subjects were math, computer science, and English, especially creative writing. I think I enjoyed math and computer science because I really liked the fact that they were very logical, and there was almost a sense of accomplishment when you got the right answer. And I guess I was lucky because in my school, we had computer programming right from kindergarten, actually. So I think I got used to that from a very young age, and basically I found it very interesting. Like, I think the first programming language I used was BASIC, which a lot of people may not even know about. But like, we basically used to make these star patterns, try to make these star patterns using computer programming. And I just found that very interesting because there was almost no limit to what you could do, and you didn't need that many resources to do it. So I found that part of it very interesting. But on the other hand, I also really enjoyed creative writing because I had a pretty wild imagination as a kid, and I could channel that in creative writing. And I think data science is actually sort of a combination of those two. So there's numbers, but it's also very important to be able to tell a story and craft a narrative. So I think the fact that I enjoyed those two subjects in school sort of paved the way for me to become an effective data scientist. In terms of extracurriculars, I learned Indian classical music for several years, and I also participated in poetry writing competitions. And yeah, so I think both of those, again, sort of helped me channel my imagination and creative skills.
Wow, thanks for that. Getting started with BASIC, that is quite an intense first language to start with. I'm very impressed. So thanks for telling us about that. All right, it looks like Keira, we finally got your mic working. So I'm
Yeah.
so sorry about that, but I would
It's
love to
okay.
hear you introduce yourself and tell us about your data science experience and space in the industry. So please take it away.
Okay. My name's Keira Williams, and I am a data scientist at Shipt. I am new to data science. I've been with Shipt since January, and this is my first data science job. I have a very untraditional background. I started out, I went to college at the University of Alabama, and I majored in fashion retail. I interned and everything, and although I enjoyed that, I was an entrepreneur as well throughout college, and so I decided to spend my career as a hairstylist, and I did that for about 7 years, and then I decided around the pandemic to pivot into tech. I had an opportunity through Ship to join a boot camp, and that's how I pivot my career to tech. After I graduated in December of last year, I started with Ship in January. At Ship, I'm a data scientist there on the mythology team, and basically we're in charge of standardizing experiments. So making sure our experiments are effective, ways that we can improve experiments, ways that we could make them faster, more efficient, and that can be done with a plethora of different ways. So sometimes we're creating new tools. Sometimes we are taking a look at like the way that we do our experiments and where we can improve, where we are lacking, things of that nature. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. I love hearing about all the different backgrounds that we have, even just on this panel. That is so cool, and I think really indicative of the data science industry. People really come from all different places. So I'm going to make you double up on questions and just answer the second one now. So thinking back to your middle school, high school career, what was your favorite subject and what kind of extracurriculars did you take part in?
My favorite course in school was history. I love learning stories. I learning about different people, different backgrounds, and honestly, I kind of feel like that helps within data science. Sometimes you have to research things and learn different things, and so it's always like an adventure learning for me. So that's why I loved history, and for extracurricular, I dibbled and dabbled in a lot of different things. I tried volleyball, I tried cheerleading, I was on debate team. I did a lot of different things over the course of middle and high school just because I was curious and I wanted to see what I liked and what I didn't like. And some of the things like volleyball, I didn't do long, but I tried it. And although I enjoyed it some, I did not want to do it for long term. So but then things like debate, I stuck with, and I did it in middle school and high school, and I really enjoyed that. So, yeah, that's just a few things that I did.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. And I just want to say I love hearing everyone chime in the chat on you also loving history and your instruments you played in band. So keep it coming. We'd love to hear everyone's experience and commentary. Awesome. All right, we will move right along. So kind of taking a little bit of a different track, but still focusing on your student days. What is something you wish you had paid more attention to as a student or focused on or learned? You can really take this any direction you want. So Apurvaa, let's get started with you. You take it away.
Yeah, I think for me, that it's I would refer to my college experience. So my undergrad, my major was computer science, and my university had quite a lot of professors that were research focused, and there were opportunities for undergrad students to be able to work on research projects for a few months. But that's something I never took advantage of, and I think looking back, I kind of regret that, and I wish I had spent some of my time doing that. because I think I now, after being in an industry, I realized that now it's very much a luxury to be able to work on something just for the sake of learning or exploring without having to think about the business impact or having to convince someone why you want to work on something. Like basically you have to prove the value of everything you're working on. It's quite rare in industry to just be able to work on something just for the sake of knowledge. But I think in university or even high school and university are the right times to do that. And I think, like, had I done that, I feel like I would have been able to explore many different aspects of computer science, and maybe even the intersection of computer science with other subjects like the humanities, biology, etc. Because we had a lot of professors who were working on very different projects. So yeah, if I had to give advice to students, I would definitely say, like, try to take advantage of all the different learning opportunities in high school and university, because once you enter industry, it's much more difficult to get that.
Well, it sounds like your school had such cool experiences. This is so fun to hear. Awesome, thank you. Mary, you want to take it away? What you wish you had focused on?
Sure. I hesitate to say this first one. I wish I had taken a computer science class early on, maybe in high school, had those opportunities and didn't take them. And I think I might have seen more of my passion for that earlier on in life, had I done that. I hesitate to say that only based on my experience. And I'm going to guess that a lot of the students in this call are maybe similar to what I experienced, and that like I said, I worked really, really hard in high school. And I took my core classes and I invested in them a lot. I learned a lot from them. And while I would have loved to do computer science, I don't know that would have been the best choice for the amount of time that I had and the way that I needed to take care of myself. So as you're talking about being in high school, it's really important to preserve your time so that you can be healthy. And so that would have been elective. That would have taken a lot of time. And I sometimes wish I'd taken it, but I also kind of respect my own decision not to take it at that time and to instead invest in those things as my personal interest and spend a lot of my free time learning about it myself. I would kind of echo what's been said already as well. I kind of wish I'd taken a little more of the humanities, especially in college. Things like debate would have been so fun. Taking some extra English classes would have been fun. But I am a big believer in being a lifelong learner, and you don't just have to do that in the classroom. I think one of my favorite things that I've ever done is now being a grad student in theology, even while I work in data science and I want to continue in data science. It's important to me to learn all sorts of different things. And so I think spreading what you are learning across a lot of different categories is really important. And then I'll say one that's kind of funny, but I think it's important for people who work in computer science. I wish I had taken a fitness class in college, not because of any particular reason, but because in our industry, it is really easy to sit at a desk all day. And I think there's something important about, like I said, taking care of yourself and teaching yourself early to take care of those things, because especially as the world has become more remote, I know that that's something that I'm not good at. And I wish I was, because I think it's really good for your mental health and your ability to think as a data scientist. So those are things that I sometimes wish I'd taken just to be a well-rounded data scientist, because that's the best thing you can do is teach yourself a lot of different things. And I think Derek has asked, would computer science in school have focused me too early, too soon? That's a great question. I think that's why I hesitate to say it. But at the same time, I think I didn't major in computer science, but I think taking a class in it is a good thing to explore your interests. Taking a class in anything is good to explore your interests. So that's a great question, Derek. I think that would probably be what my answer would be for myself personally, but I don't know that that's a generic thing for all people.
Awesome. It was great to hear your perspective. Thanks, Mary. Keira, do you want to take up the question here? Sorry.
So I don't, when I think about this question, I don't really have a lot of regrets when it comes to like grade school and stuff. I did an advanced degree in high school, and I took like honors classes to get the advanced degree. I even took AP classes and stuff. So I really applied myself in high school. But Something that I would say that I regret that I am now learning the importance of is something basically what Mary just said, learning how to focus your time. Like, it's a time for work in there, and it's a time to be yourself. And that is so important, especially like when you get into your career, but it's something that will benefit you not just in school, but like in college too. Learning how to take your time and work, but also take your time and be yourself and love on the people that are important to you, do the things that make you you. Like, that is something that I am now learning the importance of, that I didn't really, I guess because I was so driven in especially in high school. So that is something I think that's my advice to everyone. Like, just make sure that you learn how to balance yourself, because life is about balance, and it actually makes you more efficient in your job when you are learning how to balance your personal life and your work life.
I love that. Such cool perspectives. I really love hearing from everyone and seeing the similarities and differences between everyone's answers. So this is so great. I love having the panel. All right, we're gonna switch tack a little bit and change over from talking about your student days to what kind of tools do you use nowadays in your day-to-day job. So Apurvaa, we'll start with you again.
So the tool I use most often is SQL, which stands for Structured Query Language, which basically is a way to extract meaningful information from data in databases. I also use Python and R, which are statistical languages, which they have libraries which allow you to do more advanced statistical techniques, such as building machine learning models or doing causal inference, etc. And then we also use dashboarding tools. So Tableau is a popular one, where basically we use it to build data visualizations. So as everyone knows, there's a quote which says a picture is worth 1,000 words, which is true for data science as well. So instead of just putting a lot of numbers on a page, it does help a lot to have illustrations or meaningful visualizations that help you tell a story. So I would say visualization tools are pretty important as well. And then finally, I think just being like good writing is an important tool for data science, I would say, because ultimately all your analysis has to be presented to stakeholders in a way which tells a story and a narrative, and also gives them all the useful information to allow them to make a decision. So being able to summarize all your analysis and present it in a cohesive way is also very important.
Awesome, thank you. Mary, you want to address what tools you use in your day-to-day?
Sure. Yeah, that was said very similar to what I would say. I would definitely say I use some Excel. Even though we're data scientists, that's still a really useful tool for the original exploration of data. So that's something I think is very easy to teach yourself, and I would encourage that for anybody at any level. But I definitely spend much more of my time using SQL to pull data from databases where we store it, and then transforming it and doing analysis on it and statistics and forecasting on it in Python. Python is definitely, I would say, probably the most popular data science language right now. It can be used for a lot of different things. Some people learn R. It's just called the letter R. And that programming language has a lot more to do with statistics. But I would say Python is probably more popular right now because it can be used in so many different industries. Python was the first programming language that I taught myself. I used a tool called Code Academy, which was great. It's free. And I would really recommend it. And then what I did from there is just picked up projects that I thought were fun. You can find data sets online, and so I played with those and learned a lot of Python. So I use Python all day, writing code in that. And I would definitely ditto the idea of Tableau. If you're interested in graphic design on top of math, data science is actually a great direction to go, because a lot of what business users need is an explanation in a picture. And so pulling into Tableau is a great way to do that. There's a free tool called Google Data Studio. I can put these in the chat. That is very similar to Tableau. So if you want to practice doing some of those designs, that would be a great tool to use. And the last one that I've started to use, which is a little unique to the data science world, is React JavaScript. So that's kind of a newer form of JavaScript. You can also just learn JavaScript. There is an emerging trend in data science to build models that also allow users to interact with them in a way that can override the model or inform the model. So instead of just taking in data and spitting out an answer, we might take in data, spit out an answer, and then allow a user to override it, or give the user an opportunity to see the original data, provide some other insights into it, and then run the model. And one of the best ways that we found to do that is by building internal web applications. So I use React and JavaScript to do a lot of that. And so if you're interested in kind of graphic design and data science, I would say Tableau and React JavaScript are great things to learn on top of Python.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. I think Amelia is putting some of those in the chat now, but some really cool tools you touched on. So good to hear. Thank you. Keira, you want to address what tools you use in your day-to-day?
Yeah, I too basically use SQL and Python every single day. Of course, I have to write some reports and stuff, so I use like Word or Google Docs for that. But the bulk of my day is in Python. If it's running different experiments or pulling data from a database in SQL and then using that in Python, those are the two main tools that I use every day, all day. So I would definitely say those are two starting points for anyone that wants to get into data science. Also, I don't use Tableau as much, but that is something that I learned when I was pivoting into tech. And honestly, it's fun, and it's a fun tool to use because you get to tell a story with the data that you're using every day and you're transforming. So those are like the top three for me that I use, especially Python and SQL.
Awesome, thanks. All right, I'm going to switch up the order in the next question, but Keira, I'm going to make you go first, so it's not the same person every time. But next we're going to address, what is your advice for the next generation of data scientists, many of whom I imagine are on this call?
Get comfortable with the unknown. We are all learning as we go, and honestly, there is so much data out there, and we have not scratched the surface on all the things that we can do and help people with by understanding it. So no one has all the answers. You're going to be a lifelong student when it comes to data science. So getting comfortable with the unknown is probably my best advice. It's a little uncomfortable, especially if you're like me and you want the control, but it's exciting because it's new. It's a brand new field. Technically, it's not that old of a field. So definitely getting used to the unknown is what I would say, and being okay with learning. Every day is something new. So yeah, I think those are my top two.
Yeah, can definitely agree with that. I think the field is changing like every month, so
yeah,
can totally get behind that one. All right, Apurvaa, you want to address what your advice is for the next generation?
Yeah, I think the first advice I would say is to not just focus on tools, but to sort of hone your critical thinking and thinking skills in general. So especially I get several messages on LinkedIn where people are interested from people who are aspiring data scientists, and the questions they ask is, which library should I learn, or which tool should I learn? I think those are sort of secondary. I think the most important skill in data science is to be able to take an ambiguous business question and then break it down into concrete data science problems, and then finally present actionable insights. So I think to do that, frameworks like first principles thinking, which basically means you break down a problem into its fundamentals and then start approaching the problem by thinking about each of the fundamental pieces that make up the problem, is very important. And I think there are several resources for this, which I can link in the chat later. But a lot of successful entrepreneurs like Jeff Bezos, etc., have used first principle thinking framework to build up their businesses. And I think tools are something which you can learn on the job, but being able to exhibit that you can learn new things and thrive in ambiguity, which I think is similar to what Keira mentioned, is really the most important skill for data scientists. And then the second thing I would say is, I guess, think about, especially if, for example, if you're creating algorithms that ultimately impact people, like also think about the fact that behind those numbers, it is a person's life that could be being affected. So I guess what I'm trying to say is also think about ethics and things like biases when it comes to data. So I can give an example. At Amazon, I was on a team which was basically building algorithms which would determine how much storage space a seller could have in Amazon's warehouses. And while to us, it might we create an algorithm which spits out some numbers, but actually at the end of the day, that could affect a seller's business a lot. So for example, if you're limiting storage for a seller, that could mean their business suffers a lot, and maybe they might even have to shut down their business because it's no longer profitable to them. So I think it is important to think about that as well, and then come up with a solution and not just focus on numbers and creating the most optimal solution.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. The ethics and bias can be definitely so important, and thanks for sharing more resources. Like, we're all gonna walk away from this with more things to learn and play with. So keeping with the theme of being ready to learn all the time. I love it. All right, Mary, you want to take us away with what your advice would be for the next generation of data scientists?
Sure, and I know our time is limited. I would say on the technical level, I would suggest learning Python and paying attention to your math classes. Python is really fun, so that was my first thing, and it really sparked an interest in me. And then the next thing is learn to Google, learn to ask questions. I should have said one of the tools I use most of my current role is Stack Exchange, is a forum, Google. I think the fun thing about data science is that rarely do we know the answer to our question before we start doing it. And so I would also recommend maybe taking some business classes or getting a business major with data analytics as a focus. Those are things that you can do. And because, like was said, these are people problems, not computer problems. And so we need to learn to ask questions with a business perspective. Learn to learn. I think that's been the theme here. Be curious, have fun. I think data science is terribly playful and fun and creative. And my mom thinks that's crazy, but I think a lot of us would agree with that. It's great fun. I think a couple things that I would add is that as you're thinking about a career or a major or something, your work will never totally fulfill you. So keep yourself well-rounded and know that while we love what we do, it's more fun because we work with people that we like. It's more fun because we are interested in it in our regular life, and because we have other things that are part of our life that are important to us. And the last thing that I would say, and this isn't necessarily a technical answer, which probably a lot of you are looking for, but there definitely is an issue in computer science in this industry where we sit at a computer all day and it's very easy to be unfulfilled. And so there's definitely a mental health challenge that comes with that. And so I would suggest making sure that you're taking care of yourself, that you're very in tune with what's going on. And even now in high school, if you're struggling with something, reach out to somebody. But particularly if you're interested in computer science, this is definitely an area where people struggle with that. It's great fun. I love it. I love it every minute. But there's more to life than that, and make sure that you're taking care of yourself, whatever industry that you choose.
Awesome. All right. So that was all of our pre-planned questions. I know we only have a couple minutes left, but there was one question in the chat that got a few upvotes that I think we haven't answered yet. So maybe we'll have one or two people touch on this really quick. But basically the question is, as a data scientist in the industry, what does your typical day look like? So if we want to have, if anyone on the panel feels like jumping in to answer that really quickly. Should I? Oh, here.
Well, for me, I do spend most of my day at my computer, whether it be within meetings or working within Python or SQL. But I do try and step away from my computer. Working remotely, you do have that. I have that option. So I try to give myself like an hour of work, and then like 15 minutes away from my computer, another hour of work, another 15, 20 minutes away from my computer. And that might look like maybe I go on a walk, maybe I play with my dog, maybe I call my mom. Just finding a balance between work and my life. And that, I think, especially working remote, I love that I'm able to do that, because it does make, when I am working, so much more efficient. I'm able to get a lot more things done in a day, because I have the option of taking a step back and resetting my brain a little bit. But I definitely spent a lot of time at my computer on Monday through Friday.
Thank you for that, Keira. It looks like in the chat there's a request for Mary if you want to talk a little bit about your data project with honey butter. So I'm gonna step in there.
Sure. Like we said, we love what we do. And so there's, it's kind of funny to explain, but there's kind of an emerging trend in psychology, as well as TikTok, where people have been trying to explore how much language an animal can reciprocate. We all know that our dogs, when they want to tell us that they want to go outside, they stand by the door. And when I say the word eat, my dog comes, she's right there. She comes running to her food bowl. And so we know that animals can understand what we're saying, and they can use their bodies to explain what they want to. So there's a speech language pathologist a couple of years ago started doing research on whether or not we could put out boards, much like you might use for someone who might be nonverbal or have some sort of speaking disability. You can put out boards that have buttons on them, each of which says and means a word, such as outside, eat, play, and things like upset or need, words that can be strung together to demonstrate what an animal is thinking. And I was really skeptical of it, but really interested because it sounds like fun and it would be cool to find out. So one of the best things a data scientist can be is skeptical but interested. It's one of the first projects that I took on in data science, and I learned a lot through it because it was fun for me. So I learned to build hardware, I learned circuitry, and I built this whole computer system with the Raspberry Pi, which is a great thing to look into. I built this whole computer system that would allow me to track what buttons Honey Butter was using. Honey Butter's my dog, and what things she was trying to say to me. And then would kind of show on a dashboard with some data analytics so I could try to guess what she was doing. In the first 3 months of this year, I think we exchanged like 4,000 words. So I'm definitely a believer in it now. She can pair words together to communicate what she's doing. And now that I have data analytics on it, I believe it, but I didn't believe it before. So I would say it's been really fun. I really enjoy it. I have a patent pending now on that product. And it's great fun. Whatever you do in data science, the key is that we're all inventors, we're all thinkers. And so that project has been really fun and also kind of hilarious to observe.
All right, thank you so much for that. I think we are out of time now. I know there's a couple questions in the chat that we didn't quite get to, but I think some of them we can answer in the chat. So I'll try and get to those quickly now that we're done. But I want to thank all the panelists for coming on and talking about your days and your past experience in data science. It's been so great to hear all of your different perspectives. Thank you so much for coming, and thanks everyone for the questions and comments in the chat.